Okay, welcome back, U.S. Virgin Islands International Chess, ISV, and we are continuing with our endeavor in the 2023 March weekend of the 3rd through the 4th campaign FIDE rating tournaments. This is your host, Colin, Heim, operator and instructor for U.S. Virgin Islands Chess Federation under the FIDE flag. Let's begin this next game. Well, in this game we had a second round of FIDE ratings tournaments. In this game, I was allotted the white pieces, and this was my second bout against Michael Smith, team captain, U.S. Open men's national team. And in this game, I had the white pieces, as mentioned just previously. And this game was played at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. Guys, I started the game with playing 1e4. Robert James Fisher's best by test, as they say. Pawn to e4, king's pawn opening, and d6. Okay, d4. Okay, so now we're going for the, this is not the Philidor line. This is the Queen's Exchange line with black losing permission to castle, but still has some chances of getting right to the endgame. So this is the position that we saw up to this point, guys. Bishop to b5. This video is for my advanced players, as this game was quite complicated and wasn't played perfectly by both sides, especially as we got closer to the end game. So let's try to follow along, my advanced players at ISV, and let's try to learn something from this exchange game. And we're going to pick up the pace a little bit and go over a lot of themes in this game and what could have been done better by both sides to equalize, and maybe a draw perhaps in this round 2 of a FIDE ratings tournament. Okay, so guys, a little bit of news about the FIDE ratings tournament too, if you guys are interested. Our president, Miss Margaret Murphy, will be receiving her FIDE rating on the 1st of April, and so will a Colin Romaine. Congratulations to both of you for gaining your norms, finishing your norms rather, and gaining your FIDE classical rating. This is something that is going to benefit all of us at ISV, U.S. Virgin Islands Chess International, U.S. Virgin Islands Chess Federation, everybody who's participating on Saturdays and Wednesdays in the Federation. Kudos to you guys, because without you guys, we wouldn't be so successful in our endeavor for promising a great frontier in chess in the Virgin Islands here in St. Croix. Okay, so bishop to b5. Let's continue with the game now with knight to d4. Well, I said to myself under my breath, remember guys, there's no talking in FIDE tournaments, so we have to be completely silent. But under my breath, I mentioned to myself, oh, not this line. I can't stand this line. Anyway, guys, in this line, it kind of forces white to capture. Well, another good move to consider in this position is just knight captures on e5. And if we well, we have to defend the f7 pawn in this position, right? So what should black play in this position to try to defend the f7 pawn? Any ideas? Okay, well, if we go here, 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 takes, and I'm just winning the rook, so that doesn't work. Okay, so instead of the game, guys, we saw just knight captures. Okay, so Michael is offering the pawn in this position, but as we see, this doesn't work. So again, one line goes like this. We play here, and I didn't want to go into this line. I don't think this really helps white too much, even though the Fritz base engine here, the Chess India, says it's okay. All right, so we went for 94, d4, c3, d captures on c3, and knight captures on c3. And after knight to c3, we saw bishop to d6 from Michael. This is the main line, and this is the best line. Okay, bishop to d6, short castles. This was all part of his preparation. Okay, and as we see, guys, queens are off the board. White has a center pawn that won't be isolated, and white has already castled on the king's side. Black has lost castling privileges, but Michael wants to prove in this game against his worthy opponent that losing castling privileges is not the end of the world, so to speak, for Team Black. Okay, so rook to d1 played by myself, king to e7, continuing with the game, f4. Well, Michael told me after the game when we analyzed that f4 doesn't really make that much sense. But when we give the engine a chance to think about it, after maybe a second or two, f2, f4 is decent. Okay, so rook to d8 now, swinging the queenside rook over on the semi-open file. Okay, played by Michael. Okay. So f5 now, and f5 is not recommended. Well, it was better to just play bishop to e3 and threaten the good old a7 pawn there. If b6 now, well, white can continue the game with some, yeah, I mean, you have to, I mean, e5 is best. What are we thinking, guys? e5, okay? And the bishop is forced to go to b4. And now if I play a3, which isn't that good, now I have to develop the knight. So that's a very interesting line that we won't get into. That was not played in the game. Instead, guys, we saw rook to d8 and f5. So my whole idea was that I wanted to go after the light squared bishop here. Okay, but guys, in this position, you have black pieces. If you need to take a look at the notation, that's fine. But try to solve it on your own here. Find the best move for black in the position. We'll even flip the board here. You guys can pause the video if you have black pieces in this position. Find the best move for black. f5 allows for black to gain a tempo. And that tempo, if you guys found it, congratulations, is just bishop to c5 check going after the white king, okay, on the g1 square. So as a result, I went for king to h1, although king to f3 may have been a little sharper, okay, instead of going into the corner, okay. So as a result, Michael wants to go straight into the endgame here. Rook takes on d1, knight takes on d1, bishop to d7, and exchanging more minor pieces. Bishop captures on d7, king captures on d7, and knight to c3, played by myself. Okay, well, what was another move, guys, in this position instead of knight to c3? Again, bishop to e3 line. And if the bishop tries to get out of the way by backing up here, well, I'll just double up his pawns on the queen side of the board. And if moving out of the way, which is highly unrecommended, I could take here. If pushing the pawn, trying to trap my bishop, I'll just play a4 and eventually win that b pawn on the queen side of the board again as well. So a very dicey type game here. I went for knight to c3 because I eventually wanted to play bishop f4, bishop g5, right? Bishop f4, bishop g5 would be good, pinning the knight here. So again, the bishop gets to the g5 square, pinning the knight, and then threatening double pawns on the king side. Okay, so this was very interesting. Knight to f6, and this is exactly the line that we just spoke of a moment ago, guys. Congratulations if you guys have made it. We're about 7.5 minutes in here. ISV and US Virgin Islands Chess Federation admins, players, and participants, guys. Let's try to follow along and understand the endgame now together as a group. Knight to g4 played, and guys, find the threat in this position for black. You guys have black pieces in this game. Find the threat. Okay, so simply Michael is threatening checkmate on the f2 square. So knight f2 is check. It won't be mate because if we go over the line again, let's just say I play a random move with white here. Well, check here, and there's a discovered check. The king has to move again, and he's just picking up the bishop, and black is completely winning. So in this game, h3 was played after knight to g4. Let's go back to the line. Let's slow down just a little bit because I know we're going at a very rapid pace here, guys. Again, this is for my advanced players at ISV, so I expect you guys to be able to keep up at this point. But if we have any beginners watching, you guys feel free to take the time, pause the video, go back and study different themes of this game as we are going over many themes, as we are almost right to the endgame, and we'll be there in just a moment. Bishop to g5, knight to g4, h3, and knight to e3. Now, in this position, I want you guys to find a move for white. Pause the video. Well, in the game, guys, your operator and your host just played bishop captures on e3, and now this is giving Michael the dark squared bishop for a little poorer knight. It's not that this knight is very bad, it's just that the dark squared bishop is slightly better, okay? So let's try to find another move for white in this position instead of giving up the dark squared bishop. Can you guys find another move? Did you guys find the move knight to a4 going after the bishop? Well, this was better. If the bishop drops back, or let's just say goes forward now, attacking the b2 pawn, well, I can play rook to e1, and now there's no time to capture here, obviously because this is defended by the knight, and the knight is also under attack. So in this position, black has to still defend the threat here, and I'm trying to find a good move for black in this position. Okay, just attacking the knight, and if we block here, okay, short takes, and now if takes, and knight goes back to c4. I'm throwing a check on d1, and the king is going to c6, and we can sort of battle out this endgame. And I think now with white having the dark squared bishop, I think that the knight here for team black on c4 is stronger than the dark squared bishop for white. So I didn't want to see that at all, and I had gone over that in my mind. I had visualized it in my mind's eye during this game, and I wanted nothing to do with that. So instead I just captured, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give Michael the slightly better dark square bishop for the horse, the queenside horse, the b1 horse. So I said I'll do with this, also because I have a stronger center, and black has not. After rook to d1 check, yes, of course, guys. The point is that none of these pawns have been pushed yet, and I want to prove that you know, my king side is a little more advanced. Okay, so rook to d1, king to c8 was played in the game. Michael going backwards to the c8 square. Well, guys, why can't we go forward with the king? King to c6, maybe this should have also been considered at this point. If that's played, I'll just play king to h2, and I'll start getting into the battlefield. Maybe he'll play this, and we'll start fighting for the center with the kings, okay, in the endgame. Instead, after king to c8, guys, we just saw knight to d5, and this goes after the dark squared bishop, and I like my position here. I actually knew in this position that I was already winning, so I just have to play this out perfectly. Bishop to c5, dropping back and evading the attack. Rook to c1, now making some major threats, defending the threat here of the double attack on the c7 square. Okay, and it was best to just lift the rook and go to c4 here, but that was not played in the game, guys. Instead, I played the move knight to c3, which was a slight inaccuracy. It's not a horrible move, it's just not a great move. It kind of just prolongs the game and gives black a little more time, if you will. So rook to d8 and knight to b5. Knight to b5 is actually excellent now because it does threaten the dark squared bishop. King to b8, and I played the move rook to d1. Guys, why did I not capture here, right? It captures, and yeah, rook captures. Well, I'm not liking the fact that I still have pawns undeveloped here. His queen side is better. Yeah, I have these pawns going here, and I have things going for me, sure. But I need to get my rook to, not to d1, excuse me, rook to e1. And if black goes here, well, I just need to start pushing to victory there, or attempting to push to victory with those pawns. So again, one line goes like this: if black takes here and I push, takes, well, there's no defense here, and white is winning. Okay, white is queening, and black can resign. Okay, so that was not played in the game, guys. Let's go back to what happened in the game. I did not capture. After king to b8, I played the move rook to d1, and the game continued. So let's continue together if you guys can. Okay. Bishop to e7, dropping back now. And what would you guys play in this position if you had the white pieces? Do you want to go right to an endgame and just trade the rooks one time, or what do you think you should do here? Well, knight to c3 surely is an option, and I considered knight to c3, but then I thought, no, I'm fine with going right to the endgame, and it turns out that this is best for white, and let's prove why. Okay, so in this position, guys, your host and instructor and your online operator played the move g4, but guys, the best move in the position is just e5, and this is crushing, okay? g4 can come next. As mentioned previously, all of black's pawns are still on the 7th rank and have not been advanced anywhere, so let's continue with what happened in the game with, instead of e5, is just bishop d8 and g4. Okay, so let's continue here. Now, this was my oversight, slight inaccuracy again. a6, kicking away the knight, fine. Knight to a3. Well, knight to a3 or knight to c3 is just fine. I wanted knight to a3 because I wanted a different course for my knight, just in case anything happened like b5, and I knew the queenside onslaught was coming. So in this position, I played king to e2 to get my king into the battle. c5 played by Michael. Well, c5 was best, undoubtedly, as there is a queenside majority, and I guess the only thing lacking here on the queenside, as Michael's preparation was to go after the queenside in this game, okay, with this opening. He wanted to weaken the queenside and try to keep the dark squared bishop on the board, and he accomplished that, but let's find out why it's just not quite good enough, guys. b3 played. Well, b3 is best because it doesn't allow for the c5 pawn to be pushed. And again, e5 was better earlier, but we have to do something, so b3. Notice that black has a dark squared bishop in this position, and all the pawns are there on light squares. Okay, so this is important, guys. Whenever you're in an endgame like this and your opponent has a bishop on a certain color, you want to make sure that you have your pawns, if you're playing as their opponent, to have it on the opposite color, okay, logically speaking. Bishop to f6 now, maybe going after b2, and king to f3. Now my king is more active. Bishop to c5, bishop to e5, and I told Michael after the game, I said I was very afraid of bishop to e5. I thought that this kind of cramped up my position and kept my king from having liberties to go forward and maintain some supremacy in the center of the board, so I got nervous. Well, knight to c2 is best. Knight to b1 is even good too, with a course to d2, but knight to c2 with a course to e3 is what I was thinking of, so knight to c2, the engine says that's good too. Well, here's the first mistake in the endgame, guys, from black. A5. A5 is a mistake. Let's try to find a better move for black in the position. Right, guys, any king move forward is fine, and we can just sort of grind out this endgame and maybe even draw at this point. If king to c7, well, I'm just going to e3 one time, and if king goes up here, moving my king back, and then we can kind of joust. The good thing is that the d5 square will never be passable. He wouldn't play king c6. He'd probably play something just like, maybe like f6. And in this position, I think maybe at some point, moving up one more square, and I think maybe we could offer like a draw in this position. I don't think there's any way to continue. It's not good to push here because takes, and I don't even have to take with the knight there. I can take with the king. And black would never do that in this position, okay? All right, so let's continue with what happened after a5, which was played in the game. Knight to e1, and this is the course, guys. Of course, the goal is to get to the d3 square and just threaten that bishop on the e5 square. Okay, so c4 was played, and now, guys, find out what you have to play here for white. You guys have the white pieces in this position. What should you play? Okay, well, the only move is just to captures, okay? And the whole idea is that after b captures on c4, we have king to e3, and king to e3 took me about 10 minutes. I still had about an extra maybe 12 or 13 minutes on the clock over my opponent in this game, and king to e3 was something that I really had to consider. Well, I have a more active king, and I can defend the c pawn threat, and that's totally fine. F6. Well, instead of f6, Michael and I talked after the game and said just getting the king developed towards the center of the board was best. Well, in this position, I'm playing knight to f3, attacking the bishop. And after the bishop goes to a square, let's say like b2, for example, well, I'm just going back to d3. And now if pushing the pawn, I'm going up here. Okay, and now we can't push the c pawn yet. If I move like a4, then I'm going over here, defending the pushing of the c pawn again. And if king moves forward, then I could move my king over here and be prepared to defend. And I still like myself in this position. I think it's decent. Despite black having a pass pawn, it can be dealt with quite easy, because at the end of it, guys, it's a pawn, kingside pawn majority for white, and that's what we're going to have to settle for at the end of the game, and not have to worry about the queen side, because it can be quite easily taken care of. Okay, for example, if black tries to move up more, well, we can drop back here, and now there's no way for the king to come forward. I am winning the c pawn, and after this takes, and white is winning. Okay, so let's go back to what happened in the game now after f6. So we have knight e1, going back to the course of the knight for team white, and c4, bc4, bc4, like we just went over previously, king to e3, which was a long think from myself conducting team white, and f6. Okay, well, f6 loses on the spot, guys, after a line of about 9 more moves or so. Knight to c2. Let's go over how to win this now for white. King to c7. Now it's just too late. Knight to a3, attacking the c4 pawn. This is the beginning of the end for black. c3, advancing the pawn. Now c3 and knight to c4. Okay, going after the dark squared bishop, as well as the threat of capturing on a5. Okay, well, guys, you can't capture here. This is a mistake. Let's just go over why this checks line is a mistake. This allows the king to go up, and after I go back, black is just doing better here now. Now my white king is being cut off from the action, and I can't defend like I want to. Of course, I have the threat of pushing here, but only after the king moves away from the c4 square, attacking the knight. Okay, so let's go back to what happened in the game. Knight a3, c5, knight c4, king c6. Knight captures on e5, now eliminating the defender of the c3 pawn, and now F captures on e5, king to d3, and Michael's king is too far away. So he went to b5, I captured on c3, he moved to c5, I played g5, and it was in this position, guys, that Michael resigned. There's no way to defend the kingside majority. This f pawn is already advanced, and again, this is why we talked about f5. This is why we talked about the brilliancy of f5, the importance of f5 in that bishop line. And guys, thank you all for participating and watching. If you did end up getting something out of this video, please like and comment, or be prepared for more videos to come. As Friday, we have this next coming Friday, we have another tournament at the deep end, guys. So a lot of chess still to be played. And again, guys, best of luck with your chess online and over the board. And this was the end of the game, G5. Take care of yourselves, guys, and have a lovely time. I had a real joy playing against Michael, Colin, and Ms. Margaret Murphy with the U.S. Virgin Islands Chess Federation. You guys take care of yourselves. You guys are awesome. And everybody take care, and see everyone on the other side. Bye, guys.